Good evening, everyone. This is the 3rd of February, 2021. This is the Newbury Planning Board meeting. So as a matter of preliminary matter, my name is Pete Pecos. I am the chair for the Newbury Planning Board. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Planning Board members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. George Morse.
Yes.
Thank you, George. Larry Murphy.
Yes.
Thank you, Larry. Leslie Matthews.
Yes.
Thank you, Leslie. Woody Knight.
Yes.
Thank you, Woody. And Mary Stone.
Yes.
Thank you, Mary. Town staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Martha Taylor.
Yes.
Thank you, Martha. Emily Noble.
Yes.
Thank you, Emily. Anticipated speakers, presenters on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. Tom Z.
Yes.
Thank you, Tom. Douglas Deschênes.
Yes.
Thank you. Stephen Sawyer.
Yes.
Thank you, Stephen. Vincent Godin.
Yes.
Thank you, Vincent. Joseph Stromer.
Don't see him here yet.
Okay,
Don't see him logged on yet.
okay, great.
I
Austin
believe they're
Drake.
going to be on it a little before 7:15.
Okay, great. Austin Drake.
Thought I saw him come in.
I thought so too. Michael D'Angelo.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. TJ Melvin.
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you, TJ. Phil Karatos.
He may not be coming. I don't know.
Okay. Eva and Fred Jackman.
I think he is here.
Yes, we're here.
Okay, thank you, Eva and Fred. Scott Kinter.
He'll probably be here later.
Okay, good evening. This is February 3rd. The open meeting for the Newbury Planning Board is being conducted remotely consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order supersedes the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in publicly accessible physical locations. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with the agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. For this meeting, the Newbury Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the Planning Board's agenda, which can be found on the Planning Board section of the town's website and which identifies how the public may join. You may join us by going to zoom.us and entering meeting ID 832-7141-3056 or by calling 929-205-6099 and entering the meeting ID number. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video and or telephone conference. Meeting materials are provided to board members prior to the meeting for review. Applicants or their representatives may be called upon to speak and, if needed, share information to the screen. Please state your intention after you have been called. So we have some general ground rules, so let's go over those. Before I turn to the first item on the agenda, please permit me to cover some general ground rules. Effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate minutes. I, as the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After speakers conclude their remarks, I will go down the list of board members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, question, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, for all attendees except board members and staff, please remember to mute your phone, which is *6 to toggle to mute and unmute, or in the computer, the mute button, which when you're not speaking. Please use earbuds or earphones with tablets or cell phones. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that will help generate accurate minutes. Please be aware that video participants can see you and that you should take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. For any responses, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If board members wish to engage in discussion with other members, please do so through me, taking care to identify yourself when you wish to speak. With regard to public comment, there will be an opportunity for public comment and questions during the public hearings. After board members have spoken, I will afford the public an opportunity to comment and/or ask questions as follows. I will seek questions and comments through the Zoom raise hand function. Video conference participants, to raise your hand, click on the participants button in the menu below the photo gallery at the bottom of the Zoom screen. Hover your cursor over this area if you don't see it. A list of participants will open and display to the right. At the bottom of this participant area, you will see an option to click raise hand button. Please ensure that your name is fully and correctly displayed on the participant list. You may rename yourself by using the more function next to your name. Telephone participants, to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting, hit *9 on your phone keypad. I will then allow questions and comments from members of the public who have raised their hand in the order which they are listed. The system lists in order who raised their hand first with the raise hand function. Each participant will be called on to provide his or her name and address and then ask a question or make a comment. I will afford the applicant, participant, or his or her representatives the opportunity to reply. Your hand will be lowered when you have been given the floor for your questions. I will then continue down the list of the raise hand column and again afford the participant, applicant, representative an opportunity to speak. Should there be any physical or electronic submission of questions or concerns, they will be noted for the record. And again, the participant, applicant, representative will afford the opportunity to speak if the issue raised have not been yet addressed. Finally, each vote taken this evening will be conducted by roll call, and my co-chair, Larry, will make sure that that takes place. Okay, just for housekeeping, we do have some public hearings which will start at 7:15. And because we do have two public hearings tonight, we're going to try to limit our discussion to the 30 to 45-minute window, just so that we can be fair to everyone in the applicants, as well as the audience that might be watching, and board members, because we do have an agenda that we need to get through tonight. So with that said, on those opening comments, I'm going to go to our first item on the agenda, which is going to be a submission appearance. So let me pull that up. Bump, bump. I'm just toggling between screens here, so just give me a second, folks. That up. And first will be Tom Z, manager for the submission of OSRD special permit and definitive subdivision plans for an application of a 7-lot OSRD at 15 Coleman Road, map R02, lots 12 and 13. Applicant owner Zadoki. Tom, help me.
Zarico.
All right, you got it, buddy. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for seeing me again this evening, everybody. I submitted today the OSRD special permit application, as well as the definitive subdivision plan application pursuant to our pre-application conference and discussions that we've had and site visits with modifications, nothing material. I don't think since we've started this discussion, pretty much in the same form that we had discussed previously. I don't know if you want me to go into a description of this project again, Peter?
I don't think we need to at this point in time. So basically, we'll just be submitting the application. And Martha, Tom, do you have anything else to say?
No, just that, I look forward to going through the process. Martha, thank you very much for all of your help. I know it's a lot of paperwork, so thanks for your time.
Okay, great. Martha, do you have any questions or concerns or comments?
I don't think so at this time.
Okay, great. That being the case, I would accept the motion to accept the submission of the OSRD and definitive plan applications.
I will so move.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
And second, is there any discussion? Larry, any discussion?
No.
George?
Yes, no.
No discussion.
No
Mary, any
discussion.
discussion?
No.
Leslie?
No.
Woody?
No.
Well, seeing no discussion on the motion. How say you, Larry?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yes.
Woody?
Yes.
Chair is also in favor. Okay, Martha, how do we look for our schedule?
So let me pull that up,
Thank you.
hopefully. Um, Can you see that?
No, there we go. Yep.
All
Perfect.
right. So just one note, which is that these are two separate applications, the OSRD special permit. Not track on the same timeline as the definitive plan does. The definitive plan requires action within 135 days. I have discussed this with the applicant, who I think would be amenable, if necessary, to extend that if the OSRD special permit process looks like it's exceeding that. So just a word of caution in terms of
Okay.
dates.
All right. So I just want to take a peek here. So we have 105, which is next week, in 2 weeks, and 84 Boston will also be continued. AL Prime is continued to the 17th. So the next meeting looks very congested. So we're looking at the 3rd of March. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yeah, and that would be the earliest, really, in order to get the public hearing notices.
That being the case, I would accept the motion to set our agenda for this public hearing to start on the 3rd of March at 7:15.
So moved.
Thank you, George. And has it been seconded?
Second.
Thank you. On the motion, any discussion, Larry?
No.
George?
No.
Mary?
No.
Leslie?
No.
Woody?
No.
Okay, great. On the motion, how do you vote, Larry?
Yes.
Thank you, George.
Yes.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yes.
Thank you, Woody.
Yes.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes.
Okay, and the chair's in favor as well. Thank you, Tom, and I guess we will see you on the 3rd of March. I'm sure you and Martha will be in touch with one another.
Absolutely. Thank you all very much again.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thanks for allowing me to butcher your name once again.
That's quite all right. I love the entertainment. Thank you.
We're pretty inexpensive here. Okay, let's see. Next, we have a submission. Let me pull this up. Our second submission. Will Douglas Deschaines and Farrell PC submission for definitive subdivision plan application 217, 221 Higher Road, map R27, lots 51, 53, 54, 56. Applicant Gadenton Lane LLC, Adam True, manager owners, MDM nominee trust, Dale B. Bashard and Carl A. Brown, trustees, lots 51, 53, and Carl Brown and Margaret Brown, estates of Margaret Brown, lots 54 and 56. And who will be speaking to us today on this?
Doug.
All right. Doug, anything
Mr.
to submit for us tonight? Anything new?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Douglas Deschaines representing Gadsden Lane LLC. Here this evening to submit our definitive subdivision plan for the 6-lot subdivision at 217, 221 High Street. The board will recall we did go through a preliminary process with the board regarding this. I'd also like to thank Martha for her efforts in doing a pre-submission review and providing us some excellent direction and suggestions, and perhaps pointing out a few shortcomings in our application. We have modified it to integrate all of those suggestions and to make sure that it was comprehensive and complete. And we are here to respectfully ask the board to accept our application this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Martha, I inadvertently muted you when I was trying to admit somebody, so my apologies. You'll need to unmute. Do we need anything more from this applicant, Martha?
No, I don't think so. Just a note on this schedule, because the preliminary plan was submitted and approved previously, the board has 90 days on this one for action.
Okay, so you're going to keep us on track with all of our schedules, right?
Try.
Okay, very good. I'm just going to announce that we do have 2 public hearings that is set to schedule, that is set to start at 7:15. We're going to hold on starting those. We're going to finish our business with our submission, and then we'll get right to our public hearings. Okay, with that said, Martha, I'd entertain a motion to set a date to start a public hearing.
Do you want a
Oh,
motion?
please pull up, I'm sorry, Martha, a motion to accept the application first. Yes, thank you.
I'll move to accept the application.
Thank you, Larry. I was getting ahead of myself. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Thank you for the second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Discussion, Larry?
No.
Thank you. Discussion, George?
No.
Thank you. Discussion, Leslie?
No.
Thank you. Discussion, Woody?
No.
Thank you. Discussion, Mary?
Nope.
Okay, great. Then on the motion, how say you, Larry?
Yes.
Okay, George?
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie?
Yes.
Thank you, Woody?
Yes.
And thank you, and Mary?
Yes.
Thank you. The chair is also in favor. Okay, that being said, Martha, if we could pull up our schedule and I'd take a look at our schedule, and you can let us know where we should be pointing our finger. So we just put one public hearing on the 3rd. Okay.
All right, so I'm just gonna put this in here now. So I think because of the tight time frame, if it doesn't seem like too much, it might be wise to start that on the 3rd as well.
And so it looks like, just as I'm looking down, that we also have 3 Newbury Turnpike and 2 Old Point that might be following in on the 3rd or the 17th. So we'll just keep that in mind. Okay, so that being the case, I would accept the motion to set a public hearing date for this submission for the 3rd of March at 7:15.
So moved.
Thank you, Leslie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Woody. On the motion, any discussion, Larry?
No.
Any discussion, George?
No.
Thank you. Any discussion, Leslie?
No.
Thank you. Any discussion, Woody?
No.
Thank you. Any discussion, Mary?
No.
Okay, thank you. On the motion, how say you, Larry?
Yes.
Thank you. George, how say you?
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie, how say you?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody, how say you?
Yes.
And thank you, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, and the chair's in favor as well. So we have 2 then popping in on the 3rd of March. Thank you very much, Doug, and we'll see you on the 3rd with your team.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Right, have a good night now.
Thank you.
All right. So there we go. And let's make sure that I am where I'm supposed to be. Okay. And so we're going to start our public hearing, which will be a 2 and 8 Old Point Road site plan review application. Leslie, I think you need to read a public hearing notice. So Martha's going to pop that up for you.
Yep. Just need to find the right one here.
And I got the door.
Bear with me, okay?
Try not to mute when that happens too.
Thanks.
So folks, as we're doing this, in the world of Zoom, all this activity is going on at the same time. So I don't know if you'll hear little bells in the background, but we keep on hearing little bells as people are coming in and out of the meeting. So we're trying to negotiate the meeting and hold the door and open the door and close the door for people to come and go, so to speak.
Here it comes. All right, you have that.
Yes.
Shall I make it a little bigger?
Just a little bit. Good.
Is that good?
Yes. Planning Board, 12 Kent Way, Byfield, Massachusetts. Legal notice, Town of Newbury. Planning Board, public hearing notice. Residents of the Town of Newbury and other interested persons, please note that on Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021 at 7:15 p.m., the Newbury Planning Board will hold an online virtual public hearing via Zoom to consider a site plan review application submitted by the Cottages Commercial LLC for a restaurant with movable kitchen and outdoor seating on the property located at 2 and 8 Rear Old Point Road, map U02, lots 153 and 154 in the Plum Island Overlay District within the residential agricultural district. The proposed development is shown on drawings entitled Site Plan Review, Plum Island Sunset Club, 2 Old Point Road, Newbury, Massachusetts, dated January 6, 2021, and described in supporting materials all as prepared by Design Consultants, Inc. The application is on file with the town clerk and in the planning office, 12 Kent Way, Byfield, Mass, and may be viewed on the town's website at http://www.townofnewbury.org/planning board pages, current project applications and plans. For more information or to obtain a copy of the application, contact the planning office at 978-465-0862, extension 312, or by mail at planningboard@townofnewbury.org. All persons interested or wishing to be heard relative to the proposed development are invited to participate in the meeting remotely from their computer, tablet, or smartphone at https://US0 to web Zoom US 832714130056, or by telephone by calling 929-205-6099 US and using meeting ID 832-7141-3056, or may watch the meeting live on local access cable channel 9 or at www.tnctv.org. Peter Pecos chairs Newbury Planning Board, published Newburyport Daily News, January 18th and January 25th, 2021.
Thank you, Leslie, very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Great. Martha, I just want to confirm that green cards from abutters, notifications and tear sheets from the Daily News, all legal ads have been received.
Yes, we have received those.
Perfect, great. Who will be discussing this application tonight?
Hi, this is Vincent Godin. I'm one of the owners of the property, along with my wife, Marion, and her brother and my business partner, Jeff Christensen. I was just curious if I could share my screen if possible.
We can make that happen, Vincent, and welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the time tonight.
All right, you should be all set to do that.
Okay. Perfect. Just to let everyone know, we're the owners of the property, as well as the Cottage Island Market, Surf Shop, and Creamery, which is just down the street from the property we're going to talk about tonight. I thought it would make a lot of sense to maybe speak to the history of the site before we got started. In the 1800s and early 1900s, it was actually the site of two large hotels, one of which is up on the screen right now. And it was replaced by oh, looks like I have to share. It was replaced by this hotel that stood until, I believe, the 1920s, when, unfortunately, with a fire that occurred in the center of of Plum Island, it burned down. And then in the 1950s, that corner was redeveloped and built into a service station and gas station. A picture here from 1972 showing the gas pumps and the existing structure that's there. And in the background, you can see the barn, and a single family home was built in between them as well. This site during that time, as being a service station, was also utilized and licensed to sell used cars, as well as an auto mechanic school. And those were the approved uses when we purchased the property. It wasn't long after we bought the Cottage Island Market down the street that we were approached by the Macheros family to buy the Angie service station property, as well as the 12 surrounding homes. This survey here shows in green, the property that we're going to be talking about tonight, as well as in red, the surrounding homes that we own as well that abut the property. After purchasing the property, we always envisioned a restaurant as the best use of the site, taking advantage of the amazing views towards the sunset and marsh. We started the process of getting a ZBA approval a couple years ago for a large 3-story restaurant on the corner. As part of the process in getting ZBA approval, we gathered almost 200 petitions from residents in support of a restaurant on that site. Those petitions were given to the ZBA at that time. Additionally, we felt it was important to have community feedback, so we rented out Pitta Hall and had an open house for the community where we discussed the proposal as well as solicited feedback. That proposal was approved by the ZBA in the summer of 2019, but unfortunately with the onset of COVID last year, any plans for that restaurant were put on hold. But during that time, we had some discussion with a number of restaurateurs, and we rethought our original design and decided a project that incorporated more outdoor dining, something that we feel the island lacks, would not only be more desired, but would make more sense financially given the impacts of COVID on the restaurant industry. One of the things we've always felt, though, is that the right restaurant operator for Plum Island would not be a national chain, but somebody with local ties to the community. For years, we've loved the food, atmosphere, and the people at the Paddle Inn in downtown Newburyport, and always felt that they would be an ideal match to help us bring something special to Plum Island. We're proud to say that the Paddle Inn team, who's had numerous successes in Boston and Newburyport, will be running this restaurant. The owners, Bo Stern, who is a Newbury resident, and his partner, Josh Child, are on this call tonight and available to answer any restaurant-specific questions you may have. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our civil engineer, Steve Sawyer, to go over the details of the site plan.
Good evening, Steve Sawyer with Design Consultants, Inc. Martha, would be possible for me to share screen share?
Yes, I've just made you co-host.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm sure most of you are familiar with this site. This is the location of the Angie service station here, the single family home that was built between the barn and the service station is here. These two structures are to be demolished.
Steve, can you just enlarge that just a touch, my friend?
Okay, all right.
Thanks.
Is that working?
Yes, and just pull it up a little bit.
There we go.
That's great. That's perfect. Thanks so much. Sorry for the interruption.
Very good. No problem. Thank you. So this is the barn that will be renovated into a bar and restaurant, the interior portion, which is probably, I'm not sure about the percentage, but it's probably maybe I think when the weather is not good, maybe it'd be more people in there, but it's a fraction of the outdoor area. The mobile kitchen or the movable kitchen will be set at this location. They'll be brought to the site and set at that location there. So right now, this site is a fair amount of pavement. This is a paved area around the building that all that pavement will be removed. The parking and support for the restaurant will be on the property. Right now, our plan is what we'd like to do is provide paved parking here. This is the existing pavement as part of the service station. And then the remainder of the parking would be gravel. It's more in keeping with the island. They don't typically, because of the Barry Island, paved surfaces are discouraged. So we feel a gravel surface is more in keeping out there. We are providing paved parking for the ADA. That's required for accessibility. So we're providing 3 handicap spaces here in a paved area for access into the restaurant. We're proposing a one-way circulation through the restaurant. So we'd enter off of Plum Island Boulevard, circulate through, and we'd exit onto Old Point Road. So as you can see, we have ample parking. We have ample parking for the project. It meets the zoning regulations for the demand. So that that's a good point of the project here. As far as stormwater here, this is a redevelopment project, so we're not held to the full implementation of the regulations. Where this is a commercial project, we are subject to stormwater, the DEP stormwater regulations. So we implemented some stormwater treatment at this location and at this location for treatment. There are 2 rain gardens for water quality treatment and some infiltration of stormwater. We are filing this. We've actually filed with the Conservation Commission, and I believe we're going to be heard the 3rd Tuesday of the month. So we'll actually open up that meeting probably before our next, we'll open that meeting before our next planning board meeting. So we'll have some input from them also on that. So that, let's see. So as far as the utilities, we've had discussions with DPS and Newburyport. They have ample capacity. In fact, they're actually looking for sewer flow out there. They have they're over capacity at the treatment plant. So this project there's no issue with accepting the flow. One thing that would be required in discussions is there'd be a grease trap due to the rest of the restaurant use here. So there'd be a grease interceptor here, and then we tie in, there's an existing connection that we utilize here. There is a current water connection that I think that we maintain. I don't believe we have to upsize it for our use. So water and sewer is not an issue, no issue with this project. I think that's, as far as the civil end, I think that's about it. I think Joe is here. Joe Stromer is here to talk about the architecture. So I think at this time I'll pass the baton. Martha, would it be okay for Joe to share would he be able to share his drawings?
Yes, I just need to, here he is, okay.
All right, I'll stop share then. Boom.
Thank you, Steve.
Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, Joe.
Great. Thank you.
Just bear with me for a second.
Not a problem.
Okay, set now.
All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
No.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes?
There it is.
Yes. Can
Got it.
you
Okay.
make it a little larger if possible, if it doesn't pop off your screen? Great. That's great. Thank you so much. Yep.
Perfect. So the extent of the building on the site is actually just renovation of existing buildings on the site. So there's no new structures being added to the site. We have the existing barn that will be retrofitting for some indoor seating, bar, and restaurant service area, as well as there's an existing shed that will be existing to remain. The movable kitchen is off of the barn area and is intended to be able to be removed from the site during off season. In terms of the building itself, the only real modification to the building is adding some new windows to the side of the building for a walk-up bar. To give some visual, this is the existing barn, so it's the existing garage doors. This is the movable kitchen, and we're really just creating an outdoor COVID safe, friendly outdoor seating area that is essentially serviced from the movable kitchen and the existing barn building. So the movable kitchen will service the patio area through a walk-up service window where guests can come and order and pick up their food orders from there. The movable kitchen is outfitted with a commercial kitchen hood, Ansel system, and all required fire suppression for a standard commercial kitchen. it's really the extent of the architecture in terms of the buildings. From there, we'll pass it off to Mike from MDLA, the landscape architect on the project.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Mike D'Angelo, landscape architect. I'm going to share my screen here, if I could try. It says the host disabled. Let's see.
Yep, just give it a sec here. Martha, do you need to kick off some of the co-hosts to make it all work?
I think you should be set now.
Okay, do you guys see the screen?
Mm,
Yes.
Okay. So again, I'm Mike D'Angelo, landscape architect for the project. So I think as you guys could see from the civil presentation and the architecture presentation, the goal here really on this site is to be really low impact with whatever we do. And, you know, you could see we have, I'll just run through the overall landscape here. Mostly sand areas where there's seating. And then there's some loose laid boardwalk, like kind of like you see, near the beach. It's just laid right on the sand, tied together with ropes. And then in the center here, there's a gas fire pit. And this one area that you see as pavers, that's permeable pavers. And we had to use a hard surface there because of ADA access. So we're using a permeable surface. And then as we work our way over to the left of the site, there's more sand area. And all around the perimeter, just for kind of interest and also, for a little bit of privacy, we're adding some sand dunes that are about 2.5 feet tall. We'll ensure they're not creating any sightline issues. And those will be planted with American beach grass. And then some of these other circles that you see on the plan, those are other native plants like panicum and bayberry and beach plum. Over here, this is a raised seating area, just to provide a little interest for the users. All around this raised area is just mounded up with sand, and it's planted with American beach grass to really hold it in place. In the parking lot, we have an island right here. You can see my mouse that has some native plantings in it as well. There's some native plantings around the perimeter. There is some new fencing that we have around the perimeter. Around this backside by the parking area, we have a smaller fence, a 6-foot high wood fence that's 50% permeable, so we could let light and air flow through. And then as you work your way around Plum Island Boulevard and Old Point Road, that's more of your typical dune fence you'd see at the beach that you might be familiar with. It's only about 3 feet high, and that really lets a lot of light and water and air through it. Are there any questions on this before I move through to the lighting?
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
So for the lighting, our goal here is to provide lighting in the parking lot without, having, any glare run off the site, off the property line. So we're putting wall packs on the fencing at the parking lot, and that's creating enough lighting in the parking lot. As you get in the site, we have low level bollard lighting, and I could show you what that looks like on the next page. It's just a really low decorative fixture. And then otherwise, the only other lighting that we need is in this covered seating area that you might remember from the 3D renderings. There's some shade sails and then some string lights above. And then there's some wall packs on the restaurant barn over here. So looking at the cut sheets, simple wall packs on the fencing and on the barn. And then these are the little down lights that are where the shade sails are. Those are hung by stainless steel cable. And then these are the small, 16-inch tall bollard lighting that you'll have throughout the restaurant area for low level lighting. There was a couple areas by the entries that we felt we needed a little more lighting, so we added some bollard lighting. And that's the landscape presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you very much, Mike.
Hey, Peter, I got a couple things that came up. Like, we did get a peer review, but unfortunately we didn't get it until we got it on Monday. So really not much time to respond to it.
Right.
One of the items that are brought up was how we're handling the corner of Old Point and Plumond Boulevard. As far as pedestrian safety and such. Right now, it's kind of a basically the paving from the service station, it's just fully paved around that whole corner with no delineation between, you can see there's no delineation, there was no delineation between the Plumond Boulevard, Old Point, and the service station parking lot. What we're proposing to do is to create a vegetated buffer. So right now, our buffer kind of runs out, our planted buffer runs out into the right of way a little bit. And then we have a 4-inch solid white line striping around the corner for a pedestrian way. That's basically the only, if you look at it out there, on Plumond Boulevard, there's no sidewalks, no curbing. It's just a paved roadway. Our 4-inch solid white line for the pedestrian area kind of matches what they did across the street. So that's, it's kind of typical what's going on out there as far as how, I don't know, we are working out in the right of way here. So we may, as far as coordination, if it's simply coordinated with DPW, we'd like to proceed in this manner, but I guess if it's going to come a big, a time-consuming issue, we may have to pull this back a bit, just to keep all the work on our property. That's one of the items that the peer reviewer Joe had brought up. And one of the other items also is you can see, I don't know if maybe we should switch to me, but to screen share, but oh, there we go. I just saw it for a second there. All right. Share. All right, can everyone see this?
Yes.
All right, so there's an existing catch basin at this location that services all of Old Point, this whole corner that we're not in the business of, we don't really need to relocate it. It's a low point at that location. So what we're gonna do is maintain the existing catch basin, provide a little bit of a stone riprap that would actually provide this rounded stone riprap that would provide water quality treatment forward into this catch basin. So we're actually going to maintain this catch basin, and then the restaurant seating would be around it, work our way around it. So, let's see, as far as if you look at the overall width of the roadway, we actually, with this white striping, it kind of creates some traffic calming turning into Old Point, as far as the left turn in or right turn coming around the corner would tend to slow that down. So that's that's a couple of comments. I don't know what we'd probably want some input from the planning board as far as handling this corner of what your thoughts are. That's kind of a high level thing that we'd like to get some input on. So that's probably it. I'll stop there and let the board weigh in on this proposal.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anything else to be presented? Or is that the bulk of the presentation?
That is the bulk of the presentation, yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm going to start first. Martha, do you have any opening comments or concerns with the applicant at this point in time?
I actually have a couple of questions, if I may.
Sure.
First of all, do you have anything in writing yet from Newburyport DPS regarding the water and sewer connections?
Not yet, just some email transitions between DPS, Dave Shaw and I. I actually asked for, a formal letter, which I did not get from him. I guess he actually was out of the office for a couple of weeks with COVID, I guess.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
yeah, if we can get that, I think that would be helpful during the process.
We'll definitely have that I'll have something within definitely within the next 2 weeks
Okay,
from now.
thank you. And I believe that the site is in the MS4. So has that been taken into account?
Yeah, well, we've provided full stormwater calculations. As far as, this is considered a redevelopment project. So you provide stormwater treatment to the best extent practical. With the rain gardens, we are providing water quality treatment, I think, for a half inch over the impervious surfaces. We did get comments back from Joe regarding our stormwater calculations as such. And I'll be working through those comments with him, hopefully in a rapid manner.
Okay. And one other question on the movable kitchen, and if I may have missed this, I apologize, but if it's going to be moved off site, what are the utility connections? If it's moved-
A coupler, a quick disconnect coupler, which is be fairly simple to design and implement.
Okay. Thank you.
Martha, one thing I just wanted to add that I just got reminded of. Back in 2000, a couple years ago when we got ZBA approval, we did get a letter when we were proposing a much larger structure that would require more water. We did get a letter from Newburyport Water stating that there wouldn't be any issues, and I can send that to you, but we will get a revised letter as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Martha. What I'd like to do now is go through the board members to see if the board members have any comments or questions on what was just presented. So I'm going to first start off with Larry. Do you have any questions or comments, sir?
I've just got a couple of questions. I'm just looking at the project narrative, and it looks like you're anticipating operation from March through November, but with the possibility of keeping the inside open year round. Is that correct? And what would your anticipated hours of operation be?
Vincent, can you? Okay.
Yeah, as of now, it is anticipated not to be annual. If it was, it would just be for, I believe right now we have 30 or so seats for the inside, so it would be a much smaller project during those times. The goal of the hours of operations is not to be a late night. That hasn't yet been determined. I don't know if the folks from the Paddle Inn may have some more comments on that, but this is not anticipated to be as late as we can be open operation.
But you wouldn't anticipate any seasonal restrictions then from the board?
No, we wouldn't be looking for any seasonal restrictions.
And as all of the food it's all self-service, I gather, is that correct?
No, actually, in fact, as of now, what is getting planned is there will be food runners and running food out to two tables and taking orders. So it won't be walk up to the kitchen.
And so there's okay. But all the food will be prepared on site rather than at some other remote kitchen, or that's
correct. The kitchen that we're having done is going to be fully equipped. It's getting built actually out in Colorado in a shipping container, and they actually utilize a third-party inspection firm that is licensed in Massachusetts to inspect the build out process. And we've already had discussions with Peter, the building inspector, and he has signed off that he is comfortable relying on the third party building inspector. And then once it gets on site, we will get a permit for the plumbing and utility hookup through Peter, and he'll come out and inspect that.
Okay, but your food service will be licensed by the Newbury Board of Health then?
Correct.
Right. Okay. I don't think I have anything else right now, Peter.
Okay, thank you, Larry. George, do you have any questions or comments at this point in time from the presentation?
Yes, I do. Steve, on the area where the gas station was there adequate soil testing to make sure that everybody was happy, that the site was clean, or if it wasn't, it was fully remediated?
I'd actually have to defer to Vincent on that. I'm sure there was extensive
Yes.
before.
I'm sure there was.
So when the Macheros family removed the tanks, it was in, I believe, the late 90s and then maybe a little in the early 2000s as
Right.
well. And there was numerous reports and testing that was done at the time. At one point, I believe in the late 90s, they did find something when they took out the tanks. They retested in 2004 and found the soil was in great condition. There was actually somebody about a mile down the street north on the island that had found some issues a number of years later in their property and thought it might be related to the gas station. And so they retested again and once again found there was nothing in the soil. And then when we bought the property, it was clean as well.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. Leslie, do you have any questions or comments or concerns at this point in time from the presentation?
The only question I have is for the portable kitchen, is it going to be a natural gas hookup or is it going to be a propane hookup?
It's going to be propane.
Okay, I thought that's what it looked like on the plans, but I just wanted to double check.
Yeah, we know we can't get natural gas on Plum Island.
And so that, is there going to be some kind of a, let's see how to, when you move into the inside and there's no outdoor seating, for people that are going to be sitting inside, you'll have restrooms for them inside, and will those be usable for the people that are sitting outside? Because I see portable restrooms outside.
Correct. So there's going to be two restrooms inside, two ADA restrooms inside. So those will be available for handicap, and those will be available for year round for the restaurant use. And then in the summer season, when it is busier, we will bring in temporary restrooms that can accommodate the additional capacity.
And they'll have, are they going to be like the event setups as far as the portable ones where it has its sink and bathroom facility all included into the inside of
There will be a wash sink available at there. The exact unit that we're going to get hasn't been determined yet, but that is our intention.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Woody, do you have any questions or comments or concerns at this time from what was presented?
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Mary, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns as at this time to what's been presented?
Just a concern about how the porta potties look. In terms of this site and all the architectural landscaping being done and attention to detail that you bring in porta potties, I'm not sure how many you're talking about. And it would be important in this day and age that they have some kind of a sink facility because it's all well and good to have hand sanitizer, but we're talking food, we're talking numbers of people, probably a lot of people there during the high point of the season. Vincent.
Yes, no, we're 100% in agreement. What we are going to be doing a shielding to go around it, and likely we'll landscape around it. So, and I don't know if I don't have it up right now, but if you actually look at it, there's kind of a pathway to get to it, and then you kind of go around a corner, and then you'll actually see the porta potties. When you're actually in the parking lot or in the restaurant outdoor area, you won't actually see the porta potties because they will be shielded, and or whatever porta potty building or structure that has the bathrooms. We haven't yet decided, but they will definitely be sinks. That is something that we've all been in agreement with.
And the aesthetics and the sanitary piece of that is of concern to me.
Very
That's all.
understandable.
Thank you, Vincent.
Oh, thank you, Mary. So I do have a couple questions. Could we possibly pop up on the screen someone who has sharing capacity, the layout of the proposal?
Would you like the site plan?
Sure.
The civil plan? Okay.
anything that shows buildings and structures, and just so we can get a feel as we're talking and asking questions. This will be helpful, I think, for anyone in the audience who might have questions. And could you make it a little bit larger, Steve?
Yep.
Beautiful. Okay, and just slide that down a little bit. Okay, so I don't know who I'll direct the question to, but George, Larry touched on this. Looks like the majority of this operation will be in the summertime, but it will be open year round. So the garage restaurant space, which accommodates 30 people, will be open in the winter as well. Do I understand that correctly?
As of now, we're contemplating it closing November through, I believe, March, but that's something that's going to be revisited as we, start operations and see how things are going.
Is your business plan to have it open, I guess, in the wintertime? That's the question.
Yes, we are asking that it be able to be open in the winter, correct?
Okay, great. So then I guess the hours of operation need to be defined, just as part of the submission. Where will the propane tank be stored?
So if you look just to the right of the movable kitchens, you can see those two. I believe one of those is an ice machine and the other one is the propane tank.
So one says dumpster.
No, there's dumpsters there, so we have to.
Sorry, it's just adjacent to it was where we were going to put them. Sorry.
So if you can just point with the cursor for me where that would be.
It'd be in this area here in the back corner.
It'd be in
actually, one thing I can point out, this is why the plan looked a little weird. The movable kitchen will actually be shifted to the left, almost to where the fence starts on the left-hand side.
Okay.
And that opens up the area on the right there where the propane tanks are. I believe that's in the architectural plan that you would have seen, but I don't believe it made it. The shifting of the kitchen got on this particular plan.
Okay, so since we don't see that on a plan, and I do see one-way traffic going through, and it's going to be going by that propane tank, so that'll be protected appropriately?
Yes,
we
definitely.
Protected with bollards or
Okay.
such.
Can you open the architectural plan, Steve? I see you have a link for it up top there.
Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you.
Boom.
Just so we can answer those questions.
There we go.
Beautiful, okay.
So here you can see the movable kitchen is shifted to the left, and there is that area over there that will be utilized.
So at that corner is where the propane tank will be.
Yes.
Correct.
Also for traffic, okay. So bathroom facilities, we talked about, there'll be indoor bathroom facilities and exterior bathroom facilities.
Yes.
Yeah, right. So in the winter time, you'll have plenty of room to, if you do decide to keep this open, to store snow. Where would that be?
Snow storage, we'd end up probably we push it over in here. There's some area in here. Well, there's parking for the abutter here. Have to store some here on the island.
Steve, given that we're going to be going down to a capacity dramatically smaller, the thought had been the parking lot on the right-hand side, that extra parking lot there could get turned into snow removal, and we would still have ample parking for the inside space, because our capacity is really only, our full capacity is only feasible in the summertime when snow is not an issue.
Great. Okay. And the portable kitchen comes in and out by a truck that will lift it and hoist it.
Correct. And the thought is that it will stay there, but in the event that there's an event that we deem is worrisome enough, it takes about 20 minutes just to disconnect the hookups.
Okay.
And then a truck can come in and either move it. We have just to the right of this screen, if you go up that driveway, it takes it out of the flood zone in about 100 feet if you go up a little hill right there, and it could just get placed there temporarily and then move back.
Okay. So that kind of goes to another question, and Steve, you probably handle this one. So we know that that intersection does have an issue with water currently. So are there any special considerations that are being put into place for that now with this design?
there's really nothing you can do with the only thing we've done is we have lifted, this area is lifted up so it wouldn't be in the ponding. What happens is that during the higher tides, the tide comes back up through that basin, so you have some ponding along that gutter line. So there's nothing you can do. If the town would like to, typically you can put on a flat valve or something. Those only last so long. Typically they corrode and fall off within a couple of years.
Right. So understanding that, and we're bringing sand in, we're going to create sand dunes. Are you concerned with those sand dunes washing or that sand washing out with a flooding scenario?
If it's some sort of, one thing about with the flooding back there, it's just more, it's a static, it's just sort of a ponding, static ponding. So there's really no velocity or wave action. This isn't a flood zone, an AE flood zone. So there's no dynamic energy. If there was a catastrophic event, I imagine there would, there might be some damage to the landscaping, would have to be repaired at that, if such an event happened.
All right, I might defer to Martha on her opinion on considerations maybe for that design or for our peer review to look at that. And then lighting was touched upon. And was it Joe? Who's your lighting fellow? Your engineer? I'm sorry. There were
Yeah, Mike D'Angelo, the landscape architect.
Hi, Mike. Beautiful. So of course, we want to make sure that we don't have any scatter going anywhere. We don't want to have anything going up. And I think you indicated that. And your light packs are going to be downward deflecting?
Yes, they're dark sky compliant.
Beautiful.
There's no lights below the property line.
Okay, great. Just since you are in such a residential area, that's so important, and we appreciate that. And then I wrote down question of right away, but I don't even know what that question is. But I think that's it for me for questions for now. But thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate the presentation and answering questions. Let's see, Martha, do we have any engineering letters that need to be reviewed or departmental comments at this time?
So far, we have received the first review letter from Joe Sirwata, which was mentioned.
Yes. We can stop screen sharing, whoever's screen sharing at this time.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Thanks very much, Steve.
Oh, actually, one thing I don't know if one thing we forgot to mention, we are providing, I forgot to mention, was bike parking. So we are providing bike parking on the property, which I think is important.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, back to communications. We've received an email from our DPW director, James Surratt, who has no issues with it. He likes the one-way traffic circulation. We did receive a communication from the fire department, which has been passed on to the applicant with regard to the mobile kitchen. I think some of these were addressed tonight. I'm sure the others will be. And then we've gotten a couple of comments from the public, Susan Mitchell and Steve Manchin.
Thank you. And those will be posted, those comments?
Yeah, we can start to post those up.
Beautiful, thank you. And so I thank you, Matthew, when you said highway department, that triggered right away. What considerations or does highway have to weigh in on this right away and then them doing any activity in that?
I'd like to talk to the DPW director about that.
Yeah, Martha, would it be okay if I got to attend with that also, or?
Yeah, let me reach out to him first, and then we could set up, possibly set up a conversation, just so.
Yeah, it'd be fabulous. It was like a quick working session, just so whatever his, whatever the towns and his concerns are at that area, that we can rectify it as soon as possible.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Anything else, Martha?
No, that's it so far.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to open up the meeting for public comment. And as indicated, if you would like to ask a question, we'll ask you to use your raise hand function. And what Martha will do is she'll keep track of people as they raise their hands and have questions. And we'll try to keep our meeting moving along. So, okay, Martha, what do you have?
So the first one is Steve Mangin.
Okay.
Hi, forgive me, at the moment, I'm getting a call from the police department announcing the new station, so there's some background noise, which I hope will end very shortly. But if you can hear me above it, I'll start by noting a comment that I heard this evening about a proposed fire pit as part of the facility. And let me back up. I'm Steve Mangin. I'm on 14th Street on Plum Island.
Thank you, Steve.
I noticed the fire pit. My understanding, and this may be something obviously we'd want to run by the fire chief, that open fires on Plum Island are not allowed. That would include fire pits. And I would be loath to see that an approval of a fire pit for the restaurant become the proverbial nose under the camel's tent regarding fire pits. There's a big concern about fires here, and I can easily imagine that if an exception were made for this fire pit, other fire pits would be coming up as well. So I'd be very concerned about that. And again, I don't know if that's under the purview of the planning board per se, but I want to flag it as an issue for your attention.
Okay.
I've got a couple of others. And again, being somewhat new to this process, I'm not sure whether everything I mentioned is under the purview of the planning board, and I'm sure you'll inform me. Let me uncover my camera here. The plans that, in general, I'm not in favor of the plan as presented, in part because of the impacts on travel and people use on a sensitive environmental area known as an area of critical environmental concern. So the first thing I'll ask is, I understand the project has been before the ZBA, but from what I'm hearing, it sounds like that which is before you now is different than what the ZBA approved. And I think there needs to be clarification offered up about how, or whether this is the project that the ZBA approved. And if it's different than they did, I think you need to go back to the ZBA and get that approval before you look at the plans. So that's more of a request, a recommendation, or a question. What did the ZBA approve? And is this any different?
Steve, I can address that real fast. In speaking, I didn't mention it, but we did go back to the ZBA and did get the approval for this revised plan that you're seeing there. So
Okay.
it was approved.
Well, that's a good thing, but I thought I'd mention it.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Right. I'm just going down the list that I made. I was listening, and I heard about the construction of some dunes along parts of the roadway. And I think of sand on Plum Island, how it moves, and whether that involves any special needs that perhaps would come under the purview of the Concon, but perhaps under the purview of the planning board as well. But I don't see any dune structure that you create, however stabilized by dune grass and plum bushes, et cetera, will be non-movable. And of course, in that location, I'd be concerned about sand moving into the roadways. And again, if that's under the purview of the planning board, that's great. If not, I understand, and it may come up with the Conservation Commission. I'm presuming that the parking plans for cars has been approved and meets codes, because that's what I heard. But something else I'll mention, and you mentioned it at the end of the presentation, was about bike racks. And as a person who is concerned about how many people are able to access the island willy-nilly, it's like, how many bike racks? Are these bike racks that are sized in terms of numbers, in terms of the number of people that may be dining at the restaurant, or is it going to be a large number of bike racks that would exceed the capacity of the restaurant? And I think there needs to be some balance that is at least discussed and perhaps addressed. In terms of car parking, I find myself thinking about, well, if the restaurant were only open from March to November, well, what's going to happen after November, assuming the restaurant isn't open? Are we going to allow private parking as a parking lot, as a separate business issue down there? I'm aware that the building inspector for the town is trying to regulate the amount of commercial parking that's allowed down on the island. And if parking after November, it's the hypothetical, it's going to be allowed. Well, this sounds like another commercial interest, which again will result in more and more people having easy access to the island, easy access to the dune fields, and perhaps causing, unwanted circumstances. Again, not sure if this is an issue for the planning board, but I want to raise it. And let me add that today, or only today, with the high tides, there were a lot of people coming down to Plum Island Center. DPW had built a little berm at the foot of the head of the center to prevent overwash. But people, sure enough, were walking up on top of that little dune, knocking it down, thereby facilitating more overwash. So again, this may be an issue for the Concon more than the planning board, but something needs to be considered, I think, about how parking is going to be handled down there. And it's an ongoing concern. I understand that we're going to get an updated letter from Newburyport Water and Sewer, demonstrating that they think they've got the capacity. Again, I commend the applicant for trying to get an up-to-date written letter from the water and sewer people. And finally, I'll also note one general issue about odors from the cooking operation. I know no one has desire to create an odoriferous issue, but I'll also note that at Bob Lobster, that was an issue when the applicant down there was extending its hours of operation. In odors and the frequency with which one cleans, the grease pits or the frying pits or whatever it is, can be an issue for the neighborhood in terms of odors getting out into the general neighborhood. So that may be something, again, if it's under the purview of the planning board as opposed to the Department of Health, I just want to raise it as one. I note at the end, there was some discussion about snow removal and where it's going to be. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind, since I've seen instances along Sunset Drive where snow seems to be pushed into the marsh, which is a definite no-no in terms of the Conservation Commission, or excuse me for saying no-no, but I don't believe it's allowed. And I think we need to be careful about how snow removal is handled in the wintertime. And with that, I think I'm done for now, but if there's a subsequent continuance, I may ponder and come up with some more issues. But I really encourage you to investigate the issue of an open gas fire pit with the fire chief and what that might mean, not just for this particular project, but for the island as a whole. So again, thank you for the opportunity to comment, and I'll see you on the beach.
Thank you very much, Stephen. We appreciate your comments and your participation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Martha, who do we have next, please?
Next person is Denise Maloney.
Okay. Hi, Denise. How are you?
You'll need to unmute yourself.
And if you could just give us your name and address, please. Thanks very much.
Denise Maloney, 332nd Street, Newbury, Mass.
Go ahead, Denise.
Hi, I think that.
Oh, you got muted, Denise. Not sure what happened there. You'll need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thanks.
Okay. When I spoke to the fire chief in Newbury just a while ago before purchasing a Christmas gift for someone, gas fire pits are allowed in Newbury. Regular burning wood ones are not. So a gas fire pit is fine. But I'm just speaking out in favor. Everything that they've done at the cottage and the surf shop and the creamery have been above and beyond, and they've really strove to be people friendly. And, if you want them to order anything, immediately it's done. So I can only say that I'm in favor of the restaurant and what they're doing. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
We appreciate your
Thank you,
comment.
Denise.
You're participating tonight. Thanks very much. Who do we have next, Martha?
Is Jeremiah Murphy.
Jeremiah, how you doing? If you could give us your name and address. Thanks so much.
Hi, Jeremiah Murphy. I live at 81 Southern Boulevard. I also own property at the end of Old Point Road. So this definitely affects that area. I was glad to see a lot more reduced proposal than the original proposal. I just didn't like the sight of seeing that as the first thing on the island. Couple of things, couple of questions. One, on any of the plans, does it show where the outhouses are gonna be? Or where your tank for your grease from your fryer later is gonna be?
Would you like to answer that question, Vincent? I think your plans, we just didn't see that particular plan.
Yes, if we have the landscape plan up, which I should be able to pull up here, give me 1 second.
Oh, I need to enable that. Okay, you should be set now.
1 second.
Vincent, I can share mine if that helps.
Yeah, actually, I think I've got it right here. Let me see here. Yeah, Joe, if you don't mind sharing it, just to make it a little easier here. Sorry.
Can everybody see that?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
So you can see right there that area that's being shown. So there's going to be screening on all sides of it. So the only time that you will actually see it will be when you walk in along the path and kind of make that left into it.
Okay.
And then as far as the grease trap, they're actually, the kitchen itself will have a grease trap in it.
Yeah, I saw that. I was just wondering about the grease from your fryer later, where that's gonna go.
That any grease would get kept in the movable kitchen, and then we would have a contract like all the restaurants to have somebody come and pump it out on as needed.
Oh, okay. Okay. I guess, my main concern about the project is the traffic concerns. During a summer time, people coming onto the island, going down to the refuge. This intersection has become quite a bottleneck. I think the traffic stating that 50% will be local foot traffic. If this is a popular restaurant, I see that being far-fetched. I think you're going to have a lot more than 50% traffic. One other thing is, if there is a large amount of foot traffic, the sidewalks coming down to this area from about where the cottage is are pretty inadequate. You have telephone poles that are basically right in the middle of the sidewalk, so that would be a concern. And my big thing is, are we talking a traffic light at this intersection? July and August, it's quite a challenge for anybody getting through this intersection. And lastly, on the catch basin, would this need to be changed over to an oil water separator catch basin, and maybe a net at the outfall to catch any debris from the site? But that would be my comments. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Oh, how about this? Jeremy, thank you very much for your participation and your questions tonight. The board does appreciate them. Thank you.
All right, next is Amy Aruda.
Hi, and thank you for hearing me. Appreciate certainly the thorough proposal, as well as the thoughtful comments that other residents have made. So I grew up on 67th Street in the 80s when Angie's was in operation, and have a family
Amy,
residence.
I'm just gonna interrupt for a sec. Name and address, please. Thanks so much, just for the record. Thank you.
Yep, so it's Amy Pike Aruda, and we have a family residence on Northern Boulevard in Newbury, on the Newbury side. So I just wanted to point out, it's currently an empty lot and building as sort of the entrance to our island. And I think it's a well thought out plan, would be a welcome addition, and kind of improve the entrance to the island both for, residents as well as visitors. And it really is the apex of sort of tourism and activity and traffic already with all of the businesses in that area. So I think it's a perfect spot for adding an additional resource for both residents and visitors alike.
Great. Well, Amy, thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate them and your participation tonight at this meeting. Thank you.
All right, next is Janice. I don't see a last name.
Hi, Janice, if you wouldn't mind, first name, last name, and your address for the record. Thanks, and you'll need to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Janice Forrest. I'm at 72 Old Point Road, Plum Island. Hello to all my old friends. I just have a couple of questions. One would be traffic, which has already been mentioned. I see what's happened on Sunset with the Plum Island Grill, and I don't want to see it on my road personally, because it's bad enough trying to get in and out of here when there isn't a lot of traffic some days, but it's going to be, congested if they're all dumping out onto Old Point. So, and the other thing is I'm a little concerned about visibility with the extension of greenery onto the right of way there at the corner, like where the sign, just past where Angie's existing sign is. Other than that, I really don't have any negative comments. I think it, looks like it would be a nice, relaxing kind of atmosphere, and it's certainly not something blocking off all kinds of views and changing wind patterns and things to that effect when everybody keeps building up around here. So those are my only concerns, traffic and being out, pushing out into the right of way with any kind of greenery it might cause people to walk around it, and then they're going to be in the incoming traffic, and making sure that things are trimmed, because otherwise they're going to be in the road, because we see that everywhere, not just on Plum Island. But so that's it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, would you like, I can quick response.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is that Stephen? Okay, Stephen, I just didn't know
Yeah.
where the voice was coming from. Okay, go ahead,
So,
Stephen.
okay, sorry. Quick response on that. Janice, we can provide a sight line diagram just to confirm. That's a good comment, just to make sure we're not impinging on any sight distance when you're pulling out of Old Point. And also, unlike Plum Island Grill, we're providing the required parking for the amount of seats. So that should be able to, basically our parking lot will handle all the parking. And so there would be no need for any parking on an Old Point Road. So that's one thing we did take into consideration. The parking does eat up quite a bit of the site, as you can see on the plan.
Thank you for that.
Oh, you're
I think all of Plum Island will thank you for that.
Janice, thank you very much for participating tonight. Your questions, the board does appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen, I see that you're back for a second. Hold on for 1 second. Martha, is there anyone else that has questions before I return back to Stephen?
No, Steve's the only one I see.
Okay, go ahead, Stephen. Thank you. You need to unmute. Steve, you need to unmute yourself, please. There you go.
There we go. So again, this is Steve Mangin on 14th Street. And I was quickly looking back at the letter that I submitted to the board, and I noticed I asked a question about outdoor alcohol consumption. Again, not sure if it's under the purview of the planning board or other people, but I'd be concerned certainly if their outdoor alcohol consumption became an issue, given all the traffic and everything else that goes on at that intersection. So I just want to flag it as a potential issue. Also, I thought that Janice's comments about site views and that sort of thing were well taken. And I appreciate that the applicant is going to try and, or will take that under consideration, or already has taken it under consideration. But certainly, alcohol in the great outdoors is a concern, whether it be carry in, carry out, or whatever out. So thank you for letting me speak again.
All right. Thanks, Stephen. And as always, we do appreciate your participation. Did someone else just pop in? I think so.
Yeah, Ally Pike has raised her hand.
Okay, Ally, if you wouldn't mind, first name, last name, and address. Thanks so much.
Hi, thanks so much for hearing me. It's Allison Pike, 122 Northern Boulevard. Thank you for such a great presentation, everyone involved. I just wanted to end on a positive note. These guys have put together a fantastic plan from my point of view. I grew up on the island and moved back maybe 6 years ago. It's so beautiful, it's so thoughtful. And I think some of the concerns that are raised, while valid, knowing the crew from the cottage, they have addressed every concern and need and been very mindful of what we as residents of the island need and want on our island, because they know the island. They've lived here, they've been here, and they work here. So I'm thrilled with the respect they've shown the island, the entrance to the island, that location and its history. I love all of the details they've put in, from the landscaping, being very, very mindful of views, very, very mindful of the walking area. Bike parking, perfect. So people can bike to the island, lessening the traffic issue. I think that's a positive, not a negative. And addressing all of the parking that people have such an issue with out here. I think you guys have gone above and beyond, and I'm thrilled with what's going to happen and thrilled with the collaboration with one of our best downtown businesses. I can't wait till you open.
Great. Thank you very much for your comments and your participation tonight. The board does appreciate it. Thank you. Martha.
Hi, this is Lynn Petty. I'm sorry, I'm being challenged here with how to raise my hand.
Okay, Lynn Petty, you've raised your hand, and please name and address. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Lynn Petty, 11 Basin Street. I just want to say that, boy, Ally just said everything that I would have said. I think this plan is fantastic. I am the president of the beautification committee out here on Plum Island. Of course, I was really focusing in on how they were going to treat the landscaping. Like she said, very, very thoughtful, the lighting, phenomenal, the layout, the adjustment to what we all need now as far as more outdoor seating. I absolutely love the plan. I think the bike rack is phenomenal. The thought about the flow of traffic, the parking, the way that they're going to cover up whatever they decide as far as the additional bathrooms go. I mean, there's, again, thought to every single detail. What she said, they live out here, they know what we want, and it's going to be a beautiful sight driving onto the island. And I too cannot wait till they open. Thank you.
Great. Lynn, thank you very much. And I'm glad you were able to raise your hand the traditional way. And appreciate your comments and participating tonight. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the board this evening or make any comments? I think is there, yes, okay. Martha?
Oh, Rochelle?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Rochelle Joseph, and I live down on Southern Boulevard on the south end of the island. And I've lived here and decided to buy a home here because I absolutely love it. And I've gotten to see what the Christensen and what the family has done, you know, with the cottage and the creamery and the surf shop, and gotten to know them as people, and I'm certainly a patron of them. And I just want to third all the great things everybody else said. Very interesting to see how, I just feel that they leave pretty much no stone unturned, and I think if there were any issues, they clearly address them. Right now, what's on the corner, clearly they're going to have ample parking, and I think they've been very thoughtful about it. So I do think it will actually beautify. I agree with her that it'll beautify that welcoming spot, not just something nice on one side, but something extremely beautiful and much desired on that side too. So I just wanted to lend my support as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Rochelle, thank you very much. We appreciate your participating tonight in the meeting and helping out the board. Thank you. Is there anyone else out there who would like to make a comment this? Okay, that being the case, what I'd like to do is I'd just like to get back to the board now to see if there are any questions or comments from what's been said from board members. And I'm just going to run through very quickly. Larry.
No, not at this point. I mean, I think it's a very interesting proposal. I look forward to seeing their response to peer review and getting some more input from the town, DPW and fire service. So look forward to that.
Thank you, Larry. George, sir, any additional questions?
No questions. Looks
Okay.
good.
Thank you, George. Leslie, any additional questions or comments?
No, I don't have any. I just guess I'm going to echo Larry on that one. I think it's really well put together.
Thank you, Leslie. Woody, any additional questions or comments, sir?
No, at this time.
Okay, wonderful. And Mary, any additional questions or comments?
Just to echo everyone's opinion that this is a well thought through and sensitive proposal. And I believe that the team putting it together is extremely responsive and it's exciting.
Wonderful, wonderful. Before I make any questions or make any comments, Martha, do you have any other concerns or questions at this time?
Not right now, no.
Okay, beautiful. Yes, I want to thank you. Everyone's moving around on my screen. That's why I keep on shifting my head around. Vincent, you and your team have done a great job in presenting things. We appreciate that. I look forward to working together as we go through this process and continuing this on. So do we want to maybe think about a site watch just so everybody can make sure that they're comfortable with the area, maybe appreciate what will be there and what will be taken down? I think that might be helpful. So Martha, do we have any potential dates for that?
Really depends on everybody's availability. It's not a posted meeting or public hearing, so.
So, well, let me just run it down. Larry, would you like to do a site walk, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, George?
Yes.
Okay, Woody?
Yes.
Okay, Mary?
Yep, sounds good.
And Larry, and Leslie?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I'm
So-
good every day but Tuesday.
Okay, any day but Tuesday, okay. And I think we want to do this probably during the hours when it's maybe a little bit warmer than cooler, so maybe early afternoon, mid-afternoon. Tuesday is a day that is out. Do we want to look at, Martha, what day are you in the town hall?
That doesn't really matter. I'm just pulling out my calendar.
Okay. So I just happened to pop up and look at the 11th, which is a Thursday.
Hey, Martha,
Yes.
if I get an issue, I guess if Vincent, if I don't think Vincent's up in this area, I'm actually out of town. I'm out in Colorado and Wyoming right now through the 14th.
Okay.
So I don't know if we can do it that first, right after the 14th there, that week after.
Okay.
Unless Jeff or Joe or somebody else.
Yeah, Jeff, I guess Jeff could probably.
Yeah, Jeff can be there. I plan on being up actually the 18th and 19th of February as of now. But if not, Jeff and Bo and his team can be there and do a great job of.
So, yeah, Vincent, do you want to be there for the sidewalk? I guess that's a question.
I mean, I don't need to. I can also just be there by phone on speakerphone.
Okay.
I've done a number of meetings that way.
Remotely, okay, great. So Jeff and Bo. Yeah, Bo, sorry, yep. Would the 11th work for you guys?
Absolutely.
Okay, do we want, from the board members, do we want to do maybe an early afternoon, 2 o'clock-ish on the 11th? Larry?
I can't do the 11th. I'm working all day.
Okay, is there a day that is better for you, Mary?
I'm sorry?
Is there a day that is better? Is the 12th better for you?
Oh, any other day next week is fine. The 11th is just
Okay,
solid.
Or should we look at the next week when Steve's going to be back?
we can do that. Do we want to look at the 16th, which is a Tuesday?
That's me.
That's
Okay.
bad for That's bad for Leslie.
Oh, that's right. Leslie's a bad day. I'm sorry. That's why I went for Thursday originally. So then the 17th is Wednesday. I might have a conflict. I do have a conflict on that day. So that would bring us to the 18th, which is a Thursday.
Fine with me.
Okay, so I'm just going to run it. Larry, the 18th.
Yeah, I can do that as
Okay,
long as
George?
it's in the afternoon.
Yep. George, the 18th.
No, nor the 19th.
Okay, no, the 18th. Okay. So
I don't know if it's required, but we could host multiple meetings unless, I don't know if you all need to be there at the same time, but we'd be glad to do that.
yeah, I think I'd probably try to get everybody on the same day. So Monday is the 15th, which is President's Day.
Right.
All right, so we're now into the 22nd, which is Monday, the 22nd. So Monday, the 22nd, going once. Let's see. Larry, how's that work for you in the afternoon?
That's fine.
Okay, George.
Subject to checking my calendar. Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Woody,
That's good with me.
22nd. Great. Leslie?
Yes.
Okay, Mary.
Yep.
Okay, Martha.
Yes.
Okay, so the 22nd, let's say 2 p.m. Does that work, Larry, pickup wise?
Yep.
Okay, let's book our site walk for the 22nd of February at 2 p.m. Great, that being done. All right, so let's find our date for continuing this hearing. And I'll let you pull up your screen, Martha.
Yes.
All right, so the third, we have two continuances at this point in time, or three continuances. We haven't filled that in yet. Where are we, Martha?
Well, the third, we've got two new ones.
Two new ones? Okay, so two new.
Put you down here at the bottom.
Okay, two new public hearings starting and a continuance. So do we want to look at this on the third or we want to look at this?
Yeah, we're really trying to push this schedule. The third would be great if you could get accommodated.
I hear you, Steve. You're in Minnesota right now, is that right? No, in Montana.
I'm in Leadville, Colorado at 10,200 feet.
I'm getting the nudge from Colorado. I love it. And Vincent, where are you?
I'm down in South Florida.
Okay, so we're getting the nudge from two parts of the country. So let's look at the 3rd of March. What do you think, Martha? Doable?
Well, we've got two new ones opening that night.
So that's going to be 45 minutes to an hour on each of those.
Well, 217, 221 is not really 100% new since we had the preliminary plan, so that might not be quite as long.
Okay.
We could try it.
We'd very much appreciate it. We're really trying to get this
we understand.
open for the summer.
We understand.
Unfortunately, everybody else is also
No, I completely understand.
pressing as well.
The other applicant is 15 Coleman, and that's two hearings, right? But so
That's, yeah, that's, but they're together.
yeah. Well, board members, okay. Larry, are you okay for a long night?
Going to be a very long night, but
Yep.
yeah, if everybody else is.
George, I know that you'd like to be done by 9 o'clock.
Yes.
Leslie,
I'm good.
Woody,
Sure.
Mary.
I'll do the best I can.
Okay, understand, guys, that we are going to probably try to streamline. We've heard a lot of positive comments. I haven't heard a lot of negative comments from or concerns from the public. We have heard some concerns. Hopefully those can be addressed. So let's try for the 3rd, and everybody will bring their patience and their tea for the meeting.
Is there any benefit in trying to start the meeting maybe half an hour earlier?
I think that is a
Great idea.
Great idea.
Good idea.
I would
That's a
even
great
go
idea.
for maybe 45-minute head start if that works for you, Martha. Let's go for half an hour. Half an hour pre-start. We'll start at 6:30.
Yeah, start at 6:30 with the hearings. Well, let's see, let's see. I'm just trying to think. We already scheduled the others for 7:15.
So we'll schedule this one for 7 o'clock. Or do
So,
you want to schedule this one at 6:45?
I'd say 6:45.
Okay, let's do that. Okay, I would accept the motion for continuation of this meeting since we have now agreed to start our meeting earlier at 6:30 to continue this hearing for 6:45 on March the 3rd.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Discussion, Larry?
No discussion.
Thank you. Discussion, George?
No.
Discussion, Leslie?
No.
Discussion, Woody?
No.
Discussion, Mary?
No.
Okay, on the motion, Larry?
Yes.
Thank you, George.
Yes.
Thank you, Leslie.
Yes.
Thank you, Woody.
Yes.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes.
And the chair's in favor as well. Okay, folks, we will see you on the 3rd of March, and I think there'll be a little communication between now and then with Martha and departments. Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate you
Thank you.
being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Okay, moving along, we have a second public hearing. And this is, will be a continuance for 3 Newburyport Turnpike Site Plan Review Application. And who do we have tonight that's going to be speaking to us?
TJ Melvin.
TJ, how are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Excellent. We don't know what you look like, TJ, because we that symbol, but you know.
I know. Well, hopefully we'll be in person soon.
Okay, all right. I was going to get my crayons out and see what I can do for artistic figures. Okay, go ahead.
So the board may, my name is TJ Melvin with Millennium Engineering here on behalf of the applicant for the project at 3 Newburyport Turnpike. The board may remember we've had 2 previous hearings. They were joint hearings with the select board. I can share my screen if it would make it easier for everyone.
Sure thing.
Let me just enable you to do that. Okay, you should do it.
So this is the site. The plans haven't been revised since the last time we had met. I believe it was the 21st. We have received the 3rd round of the peer review from Joe Sawatka. And I believe there was just one editing error that he had mentioned in the details. And he had suggested that we perform a test pit prior to construction in the fire retention area. Since the last time we had met, we have actually got approval from the Newbury Conservation Commission. We're still waiting for the order of conditions, but it has been voted on. The third-party review that was being performed through the Newburyport Planning Board for the Water and Sewer Department has been completed. The peer reviewer didn't find really any issues with our LSP's determination regarding the groundwater contamination and didn't flag any of the utility connections as being a potential contamination or issue. They did suggest some minor modifications that we wrap the trench in filter fabric and provide clean material around the pipes. So we are anticipating that water and sewer will be signing off at the next planning board meeting, which would be February 17th. And talking with the planner, the planning board really didn't have any comments. It's very little work in Newburyport. So really we're just going to try to get one final revised plan off to them for sign off, and hopefully we'll have their approval as well. And Martha, I know I'd reached out to you regarding the fire department. Have you seen any comments from them?
I haven't. I reached out again to them and have not received anything back.
Okay. And I can coordinate with you too. We did do a turning analysis to show that the vehicle can make it through the site. I can forward that off to you if it's easier for you to disperse to whoever in the town to take a look at, but
Yeah.
that was just a comment that Newburyport said they had received.
Yep, that would be great if you can send it to me and I'll forward that on.
Okay. And I can go into any further detail with the project, but I know the planning board has seen this exact plan a few times. So with that, I can address any specific questions anyone may have.
Okay. All right. Thanks, TJ. Martha, it's just really, it's come to kind of our attention that we really, most of our stuff has been kind of focused around the contamination piece. We really haven't done much on the site plan. TJ, I'm going to have you probably stop screen sharing for a couple.
Yep. No problem.
So do you think it'd be helpful just to frame our board discussion to maybe review our criteria? Just so.
Sure, I can bring those up.
Great. So this is just to frame our discussion, board members. I'll open this up to public comment because most of our concerns were kind of related to the site itself, the previous history of the site. So, Martha, wow, we're gonna have to do something with that.
Let's see, so here are the criteria. I'll try to make it a little bigger.
Okay, beautiful. So just, for everybody to keep in mind, for thoughts of discussion, our decision criteria, as you've seen this before, minimize cut and fill number of trees. We don't have to worry about that. Vegetated wetland displaced, the Concom's looked at that, soil erosion, threat of air and water pollution, traffic congestion. Everybody, I think, is familiar with this site. Continuing on, as we know, these removal of existing stone walls, we don't have any of those to be concerned with. Adequate stormwater management and other utilities and Newbury stormwater bylaw. maximize safety to pedestrians and vehicles, provide adequate access, the structure of fire and emergency, minimize obstruction of views, minimize the visual intrusion and controlling visibility of parking, minimize glare of headlights, minimize unreasonable departure of the character, materials, and scale of the buildings and vicinity, preventing contamination of groundwater sources, enhance the appearance of the property in greatest degree possible, minimize impacts on the use of adjacent properties through regulation of hours of operation, ensure compliance with provisions of Newbury bylaws, including parking sign notwithstanding the above. Okay, so that's just to keep it fresh in everyone's mind, things for our site plan criteria. And I just want to run down. Larry, do you have any questions, thoughts, or concerns as we've just reviewed that?
Well, I just have a question and looking for some explanation. To put this in context regarding the January 23rd peer review letter from Joe Sawetka. On the third page, and this is in response to item 6 under, I'm sorry, bear with me. I guess existing conditions, and also item 2 under stormwater management report. He seems to be suggesting we need additional test pits. Can someone speak to that? And I'm not quite sure what he's getting at there. Just that the test pits that have been done to date are not adequate. Is that, can someone help me with that?
Yeah, I could try to answer some of that question. So one of Joe's initial concerns was that the area for the stormwater basin was fill from excavated materials due to the hazardous materials being removed and fill brought in. And based on the test pits that we had done in that area, we found that there was about 1 foot to 2 feet of fill, and then a B layer of, like a subsoil. And then we found sand down to about 5-6 feet. So based on our test pits, we believe that the sand is naturally occurring. And Joe was just looking for more clarification that it isn't fill, and it just wasn't brought into as part of all the excavation that was done to deal with the hazardous materials.
And do you feel you can satisfy him on that?
Yeah, we'll do a test pit before construction.
Okay. So that would, I guess, then what we're talking about, it would be a condition of approval that further test pit be done.
Yes, that's your question?
That's a question, I guess. Maybe best for Martha.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was the intention, that be a condition of approval.
Okay, all right. That's all I have.
Thanks, Larry. George?
No questions.
Okay, or comments. Leslie?
No questions or comments.
Okay, Woody?
No questions or comments.
Mary?
No.
Okay, I do. Hey, let's talk about the design. Can we pop up the image of what the building looks like? Proposed?
Yep.
And where are we now? We apartments? Are we condos? Where are we in that thought process? Is it?
The intention is to set everything up as condos. So it'll be separate units that they don't have a decision whether or not they're going to be rentals or condos, but they will be set up as a condo, and the intention is to be condos.
Okay. So is parking is not underneath anymore. Parking is all outside. Is that right? Or is that because this has gone through a couple different iterations. So just help me out.
Yep, that's correct. All the parking is outside the building. It was formerly in this area here, and we've since closed that in, just to kind of reduce building costs, and we made it work outside. So.
Okay, and so that's going to be retail on the bottom. Is that right?
Yeah. So there's actually an error on the architectural plans. Just this portion of the building is going to be retail. Okay. This was mistakenly labeled. This will be. It won't be residential apartments or anything. It may be storage. We've talked about potentially a gym just for the residents. So it's not going to be commercial, and it's not going to be living space. It'll just be some
Facility space.
accessory use to the residential.
Okay, all right. So let's go back to the image of the building. Are you in love with that design, TJ? I mean, just think about what's out there right now.
Yeah, it's a little different from what's out there, but it's yeah. I mean, it's unique.
And it's big. And it's going to look bigger, right?
Yeah, I mean, I believe it's just under 35 feet. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell from this image here. I mean, it's kind of the scale of the adjacent building here. So it is a little bit bigger than, I believe that's the Domino's building right there. But yeah, it is definitely larger than that building for sure.
So is the intention to make it look like a barn?
I'm not sure what the discussions with the architect were.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, because we're trying to, it's supposed to be fitting with the character, and the character of that area is a little bit different than making it try to look like a barn. It's big like a barn. It's the question, TJ. Maybe you're not the guy I should be asking.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely kind of relay any concerns that the board has with the architecture, and we can work on, either revising or attempting to change some aspects of the building to just make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing.
I don't know if other board members, because we haven't looked at the building design in quite some time. If anybody else had any concerns with that, keeping in size what's going to be next to it, and behind it, it's what's behind it. Any board members, comments, concerns, or no? Okay. All right, that was my thought. Anybody else on criteria questions?
Can I say something on the building design?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay. I mean, I agree with the chair. It seems the drawings are very misleading. It sort of, it looks like a building sitting out in a green field, whereas we know that it's actually something that's at the southern end of the traffic circle. And it's a box with sort of decorative roofs on it. So I think in terms of the, the criteria that it fit into its context, I think it falls a little short of that. Rather than adding roofs at each level, it might be more successful if there were actually modulation in the exterior. I recognize that would probably be a more expensive solution, but this seems to kind of relate to nothing that's in the area.
Because everything that's here is pretty kind of industrial looking.
Right, and not that we necessarily want it to look like that either, but a red barn with a bunch of false roofs is not necessarily the appearance either.
So maybe something to think about, TJ?
Yeah, definitely. I will talk with the applicant and the architect and see if we can.
Okay, I don't want to
come up with something different.
Yes, Larry.
Martha, can you explain that term you just used? Modulation of exterior?
And so basically what they've done is they have, and pardon me for putting it this way, but basically they have a shoebox. And so what they've done is they've put some, sort of gambrel roofs at the end and over the entry, and put sort of fake roofs at the top of each of the stories, rather than doing something where maybe the walls step in or step out. That there's some form to the structure as opposed to having things added to it. I don't know if that helps describe it at all.
I think I understand now your point. Yeah. Okay.
And I don't know. I mean, the bulk of it, I understand that it meets the height requirement, and this would affect square footage. But if the third level maybe were more dormered as opposed to being a full story with the roof on top, and I don't know if that's even possible programmatically.
Would that affect the height, Martha?
Might not necessarily height, but it could affect the appearance of the bulk of the building.
Okay.
Martha, I just wanted to double check. I think we had talked about it before, but in a mixed use building, we cannot have residential units on the first floor, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Under our definition of mixed use in the bylaw.
Any other comments or questions from board members? Okay. Martha, did we have to look at anything from Joe?
I think the only thing, outstanding thing really was the recommendation for an additional test pit.
And we don't have any public comments, or is anyone here tonight that wants to comment? We can probably stop screen sharing today. Thanks very much. Anyone from the public that would like to question or make a comment? I don't see anything, Martha.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything here. The only other thing that we haven't really touched on is the lighting and the photometric plan.
Oh, excellent, excellent. TJ, do you have any of that?
I do. No, I guess similarly, we haven't really discussed the landscape plan either. That's something we want to take a look at after the fact.
Right. Yeah, it'd probably be good to bring both of those up.
So here's the lighting.
So what type of lighting are you proposing?
So they are all dark sky. I believe we had submitted the cut sheets. I can pull that up after as well. So we are proposing a few poles, but the majority of the lights will be mounted along the building. Just, you know, rough locations here.
How high would your poles be?
I believe they were 12 to 14, but I'll double check.
And Martha, were you able to take a look at the configuration of the fixtures?
They're on the drawings and they're pretty. Actually, no, I saw the specs.
I can pull them up if you want to.
Okay, yeah, that would be helpful. And it does appear that there's a little bit of light trespass off the site on the street and to the south. And again, this is a fairly urbanized area, but.
Is that up for everyone there? The first cut sheet? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I can kind of just scroll through these quickly. Sorry, it's a little lengthy of a cut sheet, but.
So that was for the internal parking garage that you're not going to be having.
Yeah, yeah. So it's gone. And these are the wall mounted.
That's the one I remembered seeing.
Just let me know if I'm flying through these too quickly.
So what is the light rating? Because what, Martha, and help me with the Ks on this stuff.
The color temperature?
Yes. So are these going to be very bright white, or are they going to be kind of in that softer light category, TJ?
I believe they're softer, but I will have to double check with the lighting consultant that prepared the plan.
And is there any decorative lighting in addition to these wall sconces, like at the entry to the commercial, anything like that?
Not that we have proposed at this point. I think that'd probably be something more the architect would have to take a look at. But as far as site lighting, no, we don't have anything proposed.
And are you gonna need any signage?
Yes, I can. Did that flip back to the plan for you guys, or do I have to exit the screen share? I'll just do it this way. So we're proposing a sign right here. So as you pull in to the site, it would be kind of, visible from Route 1. And then I believe there is space for the sign on the actual building.
And TJ, did you have a cut sheet of what that sign looks like?
We have not, it is not designed yet. I just have kind of a rough location on the building.
Okay. So it looks like we still have some things to work out with lighting, signage, maybe design of building.
Yep.
So the sign, 13 foot by 5 foot. And there's no indication of lettering or anything like that.
No.
Or the size of the sign that you're looking to put on the entryway.
I believe we have that one called out. I know that the bylaw has kind of strict sign requirements that we'd have to adhere by. No, we don't have it called out on there. We just kind of threw it on the architect that they were going to be providing details of the signage.
Okay.
But I will reach out about that.
Okay. So let me just get a kind of a feeling for the board where we are with this. Larry?
I don't have any particular comments at this point, Pete.
Okay, George?
Yeah, there are some things outstanding, so I have nothing to comment right now.
Okay, all right. Leslie?
Nothing right now.
Woody? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Woody.
Oh, no, nothing at this time.
Great. Mary?
Nope.
Okay. So going forward, conservation signed off on this. Are we to a point where we want to have Martha start to draft a decision on this? Tonight just seemed to open up a couple more questions than conclusions for me. I don't know if it did for other people.
Yeah, it seems like there's some outstanding issues, and especially if there's going to be any
Redesign?
if the design is going to be revisited, the lighting, the signage.
Yeah, I think, and TJ, it kind of sounds like those things still are a work in progress.
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, if we're gonna have to relook at the design of the building and really put detail into the signage, so.
So I think we're looking at maybe continuing this. I don't know if we want to even start with some draft decisions, or if we want to wait till we have things a little bit closer to what we're actually going to be looking at.
I guess it would depend if it seems like certainly as far as the site plan review criteria are concerned, there's some that really aren't either not applicable or aren't issues.
Right.
But in terms of context and sort of some of the code compliance regarding signage and some unknowns, it'd be hard to get too far with it.
With a draft until we know what those look like. Okay, that being the case, then I think, TJ, I think we're going to be, we're going to have to probably have some more information for the board to get a better, comfort zone on the things that we've talked about tonight that appear to be questions and not determined yet. So Martha, let's look for a continuance date. Yep. And I think I know what date we're not going to be looking at.
And also, just as a reminder, the Select Board's Water Supply Protection Overlay District public hearing was continued to next Tuesday.
Okay, all right. So shall we look at the 17th of March then? I'd entertain a motion to continue this hearing. TJ, will that give you enough time to answer the questions and comments that we've discussed tonight?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the third's out, so yeah, that we wouldn't have anything by the next hearing. So yeah, that's
Okay, great. I'd appreciate a motion to continue this public hearing to the 17th of March, 7:15.
I'll move to continue the public hearing to March 17th at 7:15.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion, Larry?
No discussion.
Discussion on the motion, George?
No.
Discussion on the motion, Leslie?
None.
Discussion on the motion, Woody?
No.
Discussion on the motion, Mary?
No,
Okay, on the motion, how do you vote, Larry?
Yes.
Thank you. George, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
And Mary?
yes.
Great, and the chair's in favor as well. Thanks so much, TJ. Appreciate you kind of filling those spaces that we have.
great. Thank you all for your help.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So does it make sense, Martha, to kind of move our this new business, swap those around for a little bit?
Yeah, I think so, because we've got some people here to talk about the,
Great, and I'd like to do that. I'd like to move to the definitive subdivision performance guarantees and endorsements. The first is 68 Green Street, applicant owner, 68 Green Street Realty Trust, Eva Jackman, trustee. So help us out here, Martha.
so on this, the appeal period for the definitive subdivision plan decision actually has been up for a while. The Jackmans would like to put a restrictive covenant or performance covenant on the property, which basically means that no lots can be sold individually until streets and ways are installed. I've had discussions with town council and with the Jackmans' attorney, Ray Perkins, regarding the form of it. There was one paragraph that was added, which is a little out of the norm, which is to allow them to convey parcel Y to the abutter. There's already an agreement in place to do that. So the covenant as drafted does provide for that.
That's that little triangular piece, right?
Yeah, that's right, between the right of way and Ray's current property.
Okay. Everyone comfortable with remembering that?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, I'm sorry for the interruption, Martha.
No, that's it. So the form of the covenant has been basically agreed to. The specifics haven't been filled out yet. One question is there needs to be a date by when the project will be complete. It has to be started within 2 years, but there needs to be a completion date, which could be extended for good cause if needed. One thing, and I don't know if this is a complication or not, and perhaps this could be addressed by Eva or Fred, is whether they're going to be doing the work themselves or whether this is going to be conveyed as a whole to somebody else who would be doing the work, because that might affect a timeline.
Eva or Fred, can you help Martha out with their question?
We will not be doing the work ourselves. We plan to sell it as a project.
Does that affect, Martha, when was that email? That was today. Because I wanted to, does that affect like number 3 on that document?
No, in terms of conveying.
Right.
No, it doesn't not impact conveying the entire
Because
property.
Right. The municipality will have to be brought in prior to, did I read that right or am I reading it incorrectly?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear all of your question.
All right, let me, I just want to pull up that, I want to make sure that I'm no. Script financial. No. So one thing about when you have all your emails lined up and you try to find something, it was the email that this document that was drafted. Can you pop that up? That way I can stop fumbling around on my other screen.
I'll have to find it. I didn't have that queued up to show.
I just need to know when it came in. Materials. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Anybody can help me out? Oh, here we go. 68. I got it. All right. The covenant. Include the first division. It shall not sell or convey any lot subdivision or until the construction of the ways and installation. So if I understand number 3, the covenant or shall not sell or convey any lot in the subdivision or erect or place any permanent building. So not sell or convey or any lot until the construction of the ways and the installation of municipal services necessary to serve. So do the municipal services have to be put in place before they can sell it?
No, so there's another paragraph, and I'm sorry, I didn't print that out myself.
I just didn't realize if I was reading it.
So I'm going to see if I can pull it up here. I'm not going to share it, but I'll try to pull it up to.
Does everyone have access to that? They can take a gander at that to understand what the conversation is.
Gosh, I can share it if you'd like me to.
Okay.
So hold on a sec.
So the lots can't be sold, but the entire parcel could be, the entire, right, okay, I got it. I got the.
Right.
So it can't be broken up, but the entire piece can be sold prior to the municipal services being brought in.
Right, so if you read number 4, it says nothing herein shall be deemed prohibited conveyance subject to this covenant by a single deed of the entire parcel of land shown on the subdivision plan.
Perfect.
Or all lots not previously released by the planning board. So that
Excellent. Thank you so much, Martha.
You're welcome.
Okay. So are people comfortable with this document with just the modification of the dates that need to be determined?
I am.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate when an attorney is comfortable with a legal document. Is my other attorney comfortable?
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. I have 2 attorneys that are agreeing. This is good. Leslie, do you have any questions, concerns, or comments?
No, I think I'm all set with that. I'm in agreement.
Okay, great. Woody?
No questions.
Martha, Mary?
Nope.
Okay. I've stumbled through what my concerns were, and they've been explored. Would there be a vote to approve the performance covenant and endorse the plan?
Well, do we need to decide on the completion date, or
Yeah.
how are we going to handle that?
Yeah, there should be.
Go ahead, Larry.
And I would just ask the Jackmans, what would they like to see?
I'm kind of thinking maybe after the signing, 2 years after the signing, or after it's recorded.
After a deed is recorded?
Yes. Well, after the subdivision is recorded, after the approval of the planning board, say you approve it tonight, 2 years from tonight.
If you feel that gives you enough time.
It's a simple road. I've been a contractor my whole life, and I could build that road in a month.
It's fine with me.
And I'm sure a contractor can take care of that.
Okay.
So were you asking, Fred, for 2 years from the recording of the deed, or the 2 years from the?
How about March 1? How about March 1, 2023?
I like that.
That sounds good to me.
Okay. With that modification, Larry, would you like to make a motion?
I move we approve it. The performance covenant as drafted and presented.
Wonderful. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, on the motion, any discussion on the motion? Larry?
No discussion.
George? Discussion on the motion? George?
No.
Great, thank you. A discussion on the motion, Leslie?
No.
Discussion on the motion, Woody.
No.
Discussion on the motion, Mary.
No.
Great. On the motion, Larry.
Yes.
Great. On the motion, George.
Yes.
On the motion, Leslie.
Yes.
On the motion, Woody.
Yes.
On the motion, Mary.
Yes.
Pete is also in favor. Thank you very much. Great. Do you have all that you need, Martha?
Well, I guess the other thing, and the details still need to be filled in. The date needs to be filled in. It needs to be signed and notarized by the Jackmans as well as by the board. So I guess the other question is whether the board would entertain a motion to authorize the chair to sign on behalf of the board members, both the definitive plan and the covenant.
I would so move if the chair is inclined to accept the motion.
That's fine. All right. Sounds good, Larry. On the motion, any discussion, Larry?
No.
Any discussion on the motion, George?
No.
Any discussion on the motion?
Not for me.
No.
Any discussion on the motion, Woody?
No.
Mary, any
No.
discussion on the motion? Okay, on the motion, Larry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. George, how do you vote, sir?
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Mary?
Yes.
Yes, and the chair's in favor as well.
And I'm sorry, who seconded that?
That was
George.
George.
Yes.
Okay. And that's a motion both to sign the covenant and endorse the plan.
Yes. Wonderful. So I think we're set with 68. Great. Beautiful. And next is 23 Shendell Drive Extension. There's a vote to approve a performance guarantee. And are we in a bond versus cash? Is that what I heard last?
Yes, the original proposal was to provide cash in the amount of $35,112. But Mr. Kinters had some discussions and feels that a bond would be preferable in the same amount. And I guess you could probably speak to that.
Mr. Kinter.
Yes, sir.
How are you tonight?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Oh, good. We're getting tired though, but go ahead, sir.
Yeah, it's been a long night. Yeah, I mean, I could do either, but you know, for me, you know, a performance guarantee in the form of a bond from a surety would certainly, you know, the premium price that I received from my insurance company was reasonable, and I would prefer to go that route if it's okay with the board. In fact, I have received the bond via email, and it would be effective on the 5th of February of this year. And I would just need to, you know, pay the premium for it to, you know, be effective.
Okay.
So I guess in closing, if it would be okay with the board, I would prefer to go with the go the bond route.
Okay, thank you. Martha, any preference from the town perspective?
No, and there is a surety form. I sent that out to the board right before the meeting as kind of a template. I don't know whether that seems acceptable. That came from, we don't ourselves have a form in place right now, but that came from the subdivision handbook. And whether anybody had a chance to look at that to see whether that seems acceptable or not.
Okay, I'm going to start first with Larry.
Yeah, no, well, first of all, I think it's the developer's choice in the form of security anyway.
It is.
And what is the amount of the bond?
$35,112.
So there is I have the, so there's a little bit of contingency in there then.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
10%.
Okay. No, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, it was a 10% contingency based on Joe Sawatka's
I
recommendation.
thought I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Larry, were you able to see the email with the sample agreement?
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly boilerplate to me. I don't have any issues.
Okay, great. George?
No problems with it.
Okay, and with the form, you're comfortable?
Yes.
Okay, great. Leslie?
I have no problems with it either.
Great. Woody?
No problems either.
Okay, Mary?
Be clear, we're talking about Form D, the performance covenant, right?
No, Form H.
Form H.
Form H, okay. All right. Yes, I'm fine. Yes, I have that too. Thank you.
I'm okay with it as well. That being the case, then I would entertain a motion to accept the surety agreement for the amount that Martha listed, which was 35,112?
35,112, and the other consideration is a date for completion.
Okay. Scott, date for completion. When do you think you'll be done?
I think I would be done, before the end of the year, but Martha and I have, discussed, and you never know what could happen. So I think we've agreed that April 30th, 2022 would be acceptable for at least me.
Okay.
And hopefully the town.
All right, George, Larry, you comfortable with that?
Yes, I am.
George, comfortable?
Yes.
Okay, Leslie?
Yes.
And Woody?
Yes.
And Mary? Okay, that being the case, would someone like to make a motion with the date of the 30th of April 20?
I would move that we accept the performance guarantee with the construction completion date by April 30th, 2022.
As a surety.
As a surety, I'm
Second.
sorry.
Great, thank you. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion, Larry? Any discussion?
No discussion.
Any discussion, George?
None.
Okay, any discussion, Leslie?
No.
Any discussion, Woody?
No.
Any discussion, Mary?
No.
Okay, thank you for the motion. Larry, how do you vote?
Yes.
How do you vote, George?
Yes.
Thank you. Leslie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Woody, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yep.
Thank you. And the chair votes as well. Beautiful. Okay.
I
Um,
do. Go
Martha?
ahead, Ma.
Authorize the chair to sign both.
I would also move to authorize the chair to sign both documents.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I'm just going to look. Okay. On the motion, Larry?
Yes.
Great. George?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Woody?
Yes.
Mary?
Yep.
Yes, yes as well. Thank you. Anything else, Martha?
I think that's it. So we'll just need to get things finalized and ready for your signature.
Beautiful. Scott, you all set then?
I'm all set. Thank you very much, and have a great night.
Okay,
Good luck.
Thanks, Scott.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So that takes care of that. That takes care of that. Let's see, where are we on our agenda, Martha?
Let's see. So we skipped over old business, so I think we need to go back to that. In particular, the subdivision, the special permit
Beautiful.
regulations.
Okay, so do you have something you want to screen share?
I can pull that up.
Everybody still doing okay?
George is
No
checking out.
comment.
Okay, George, I appreciate it very much. Sorry that we tagged on so long.
No, you're doing all right.
Good night.
See you,
Thank you,
George.
George. Thank you, George.
Thanks, George.
Oh,
Okay.
good night, George.
Hi, George.
All right, we might just need to make that a little bit louder. Oh, beautiful.
Not quite that big.
Quite that big.
Although we're getting there.
Yeah, Leslie, really, huh?
How's that?
Good.
All right, so take us through this, Martha.
All right, so last time we talked about this, there were a couple of things that were a little bit of sticking points, especially if you go down to 3D. Nobody felt very comfortable with the term social structures. Larry had some suggestions of language that we might be able to pull in from the purpose and intent of the OSRD, but given the structure that town council had set up here, that didn't quite fit. So what I tried to do was to kind of say the same thing in the format that was set up. So what I highlighted here was, the board is going to have to, the special permit granting authority, whichever board it is, has to make a determination that the adverse effects of the proposed use will not outweigh its beneficial impacts to the town or the neighborhood in view of the particular characteristics of the site and of the proposal in relation to that site. So that kind of sets the context, and then below are the things that can be considered in making that determination. So what I suggested in B is adding some language regarding traffic volume, vehicular and pedestrian safety, and then, excuse me, adding traffic related to parking and loading. And in D, instead of saying social structures, possibly saying community character, adding an E, which says impacts on adjacent properties, neighborhoods, and zoning districts. And hoping that maybe kind of captures the things that the board would be talking about. I think Larry also had a concern about the wording in 1 under purpose and intent, but maybe we can come back to that.
Let me start with Larry. Do you want to first start with criteria and then?
Yeah, no, Martha, the language highlighted in yellow was already there, correct?
Yes, that was already there.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that in our earlier discussions, I certainly overlooked that, but that sort of says it all right there. I think that, well, in short, other than coming back to discuss paragraph 1, I think I agree with your edits.
Great, thanks, Larry. Leslie.
I think I'm all set with the way it's all set up.
With the criteria.
Yeah, taking out some of that was useful. The social structures.
Great.
Pretty bad.
Really, Woody?
I'm good with it.
Okay, Mary?
Martha did a good job, very good. And I like the neighborhood and community character.
Okay.
And I like seeing social structure stricken. Stricken.
Because
Nice
nobody
job,
knows what it
Martha.
means.
3 times
Thank
quickly.
you, Martha.
3 times quickly, Mary.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Spitting it out.
Really? Okay, that being the case, I think we're comfortable with that, Martha. And so Larry, on paragraph 1.
Well, I'll just pose the question because Martha and I seem to disagree. Does anyone but me see a grammatical problem, a grammar problem with that? It is the purpose and intent of this section to provide the designation of the board or agency which shall act on the various special permits, the general and specific regulations governing special permits and procedures, yada, yada, yada. Paragraph 2 defines or designates the board. It defines the ZBA as the fallback, and then it goes to the table of use regulations. Shouldn't number 1 say it is the purpose and intent of this section to provide the designated board or agency? Do you follow what I'm saying?
I follow what you're saying, but I think actually I might suggest, I agree, the wording is strange and that's how it came to me, but
I mean, paragraph 1 does not designate the board.
no, but I think the purpose of paragraph 1 is to I had this before, now it's kind of lost me. Basically gives the authority for the designation of a board or agency. So then it goes down to say the zoning board is the default.
It will be, so it provides the ability to do it. Is that correct?
Right, right. So I'm wondering whether maybe just adding the word for, so the purpose and intent of this section is to provide for the designation of the board or agency. Does that help at all?
Yeah, that helps.
Because you're doing that in paragraph 2. Well, I don't want to, I don't want to belabor it, but.
No, I think it's set up. It sets it up. 1 sets it up. I think what Martha
Okay,
just said was
all
right.
All right.
It's a setup, right?
I will
An intro.
capitulate. Apparently, I'm the only one who sees a problem, so I'll withdraw my objection.
Do you think it helps to add for between provide and the, so to provide for the designation?
No, because you're providing for the designation in paragraph number 2 below.
Okay.
All this is doing is saying that the purpose of intent of this bylaw is to give the designated board direction.
Well, I think it's to set up a process for designating a board to be the special permit granting authority and then the process. So I think Lisa's taking it a step back.
If this is town council's language, let's go with it.
Okay.
I think Sister Mary Catherine would have given me a D though for grammar on this one. I surrender.
I'm sure she had no A's. Didn't give no A's out there.
Okay.
All right, we're good. I think. it's
I
good.
mean, it's not fatal to the thing. Everybody knows what's going on. So I just.
Okay, I appreciate the thought, Larry. And I also appreciate the fact that we have the edits to the criteria, which I think help button this up. Is there anything more that we need to do with this, Martha?
So I guess the next thing to do is to vote to refer it to the select board to have them refer it back to the planning board for public hearing.
Okay.
Right now, this is the only thing that we have. It would be ideal to be able to, if we do get lot dimensions sorted out, to bundle the two. The way the select board agendas are, the timing now doesn't work out as well as it used to. It used to be that their agenda would be set the day after our planning board meeting, after the vote, so I could just give it to Ellen and she would incorporate it. So, and because the select board has to refer it back to the planning board within 14 days of getting the referral from the board. But I think if the board votes to refer it, then I will make sure that it actually gets to their agenda in a timely fashion, which would be the February 23rd agenda.
So I think we would like to do that. So I would entertain a motion to endorse these modifications to submit them to the select board.
Also move.
For consideration. Great. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion, Larry?
No discussion.
Great. Leslie?
No.
Woody?
No.
Mary? On the motion, do you vote? Larry?
Yes.
Woody?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Mary?
Yep.
You guys in favor? Great. There you go, Monica.
Good.
Let's see, what else do we have next?
So I was not able to make any progress on the lot dimension thing, unfortunately.
Okay. Is that something that you could submit to us and then we can make comments to directly and get it on an next agenda?
Yeah, potentially, as long as all comments just come back to me and there's no discussion among the board members.
Okay, so everyone gets that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We said we may able to keep that moving, keep that alive to get on to this year, the spring meeting, if that does occur.
Right, and one thing I would like to note is town council has said that the board has always wanted to hold the public hearing in a timely fashion so that if there is public input that might affect the text of an amendment, that could be incorporated, but the public hearing can actually happen the day before town meeting if that, actually is necessary.
Okay.
But it's just timing this year is a little tricky. And the meeting date is still up in the air. Anyway, enough said.
So let's talk about our submission deadlines and rules and regulations.
So I did talk to town council about that. The board does not need to hold a public hearing to adopt rules and regulations, but it does need to be done at a regular meeting. She suggested that it be rules and regulations as opposed to a policy because it's more enforceable. And it's something that, well, it's actually something that Larry and I talked about quite some time ago in terms of trying to put together some rules and regs for the board. So it would be not only submission deadlines, but other procedural things as well. Newburyport actually for their ZBA has something which might be a good template. So perhaps I could do the same thing, is just send that out to the board, tailor it for us and send it out to the board members for comment. We could talk about it next time. Does that make sense?
Yep. So
I think it makes perfect sense to make this part of a larger package of regulations.
and I appreciate your efforts on very much, Larry. Thank you. That being the
Yeah,
case,
thanks, Larry. Thank you.
thank you, Mary. That being the case, Martha will circulate it. We'll do our responses specifically and only to Martha for responses. That'd be great. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Martha. Let's see, what else where are we now? Our new business is done. Financial
Report.
Do I have that?
You do have it, but I can pull it up, I think, if you need me to.
That might be helpful at this point in time.
Okay. Got that?
Let's see, I gotta put the screen down. And there we go. Planning board financial report. You just made it smaller, Martha.
She's trying to hide something.
Yeah. January 2020 payroll and invoices authorized. Number one, payroll warrants.
Skimming off the top.
Right, payroll warrants for town planner and planning administration. To make my eyes work harder. A is a PR 1221-14 for payroll ending 1/2/2021. B is PR 21-15 for payroll ending 1/16/21, and C is PR 2116 for payroll ending 1/30/21. Planning board expense invoices for the Verizon Wireless Planning Board iPad of 1/6/2021. Peer review invoices from the escrow account for Joseph Walker for AL Prime gas station of 1/15/2021. 3 Newburyport Turnpike 1/6/2021, and 84 Boston Road 1/6/2021. Thank you very much, Martha. All right. That takes care of our financials. Any plans, direct planning report, Martha?
I think at this point, the only thing I'll say is we did have a managers meeting today, and we are all going to be back working in the building as of February 16th.
Oh, great.
So we'll still be closed to the public, but we will all at least be back together here. So
that's great, Martha.
Hopefully that'll go smooth and it'll make working easier to negotiate things.
Will they be meeting, Martha, will you be taking members of the public by appointment or just?
Actually, that wasn't mentioned. I'm kind of assuming that it will go back to the way it was before and that there would be meeting with public members by appointment, but I don't know. That wasn't mentioned.
What does the governor say about that?
No, I think that's really, it's municipality by municipality, as opposed to governor. You know, the governor's still got restrictions on the numbers of people who can gather inside and outside.
Sure.
But individual one-on-one meetings, I don't think there's any regulation on that.
Okay.
Right. Select board report.
Select board report. The longest part of the discussion for the select board was changing the emergency route for Plum Island, possibly from 14th Street to 12th Street, because it looked like it was a straighter shot. Chief Lucy brought that up, and they were going to schedule a site walk to compare the two routes.
Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Leslie.
CBA.
I have to confess, I missed the last meeting.
I was there.
Okay, well, I'll defer to Martha then.
Martha.
If you would like, Martha.
Yeah, I was running the Zoom meeting. So the two things that were on the agenda was the Village at Cricket Lane, which was continued further, but town council's in the process of she's written up a draft of the decision, and that's being distributed for comments. And most of the comments have been back, so that will be discussed at the next session of the hearing, which is on the 18th of February. And there was a project on Plum Island, which is completely escaping me right now, which was also continued.
Okay. Conservation, I must apologize. I don't have my notes in front of me. What I can tell you is a very long meeting. Woody, what did you say? 3 hours and 50 minutes when you watched the tape?
Oh, man, seriously?
Yeah,
Seriously.
Wow,
350 something, yeah.
wow.
I apologize, I don't have my notes in front of me. But one thing that did pop up, which actually popped in tonight, was the right of way and doing stuff within the right of way. There was one applicant that wanted to do something. So I just think we have to keep that on our radar screen as we get applicants that are wanting to do things to make sure that highway is well versed and we understand the implications. Because just the pedestrian pedestrian activity, which was in a public comment tonight, it was important. So I think we just have to keep those types of thoughts in our minds as a board. So my apologies for not having my notes, but thank you. MVPC.
Couple things. The commissioners meeting was fairly straightforward, approving warrants and things like that. The planners meeting, we had a presentation from Joy Duperl regarding a new floodplain bylaw or floodplain bylaw amendments, which will need to be made. So this is something that's going to have to be on our radar for the spring 2022 town meeting at the latest. We're not expecting any map amendments, so we don't have to tie it in with anything before that. But there is now a state model floodplain bylaw, and we're going to have to bring ours into compliance with that.
Okay. More things to continue to do. All right. Anything else that anyone has for us this evening? I don't see anyone. Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I move we adjourn the meeting.
Aye. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, perhaps? All right. Larry, what do you say?
I say yes.
Thank you very much, sir. Leslie, what do you say?
Yes.
Woody, what do you say?
Yes, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Woody.
You too.
Mary?
Yeah, everybody have a good night. Stay warm.
Yes, and thank you to Martha and Pete and Larry for your extra work. Really appreciate it, you guys.
Thank you very much, Mary. And thank you, Martha. And everyone have a wonderful evening. And thanks for joining us.
You as well, Pete.
Thanks,
Good night,
guys.
everybody.
Take it easy.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.